be free, to allow ourselves to have the knowledge that will enable us to move forward. But this is something that I use in everything that I teach, because I think the most empowering thing was when I truly decided to take responsibility for everything that happened in my life. Not necessarily from a perspective of giving myself a hard time, that might have been where it started, but to take responsibility and then being able to move forward. If I took responsibility, then I was empowered. If I laid blame and said, well, you know, you did such and such, I'm actually giving my power away. I'll backstep a little bit. I used to, which I'm incorporating here, run a training called Reclaim Your Power. And reclaiming your power, being free, we're kind of incorporating a whole lot of it in this 12-week training. And taking responsibility was the first step of reclaiming my power. Start to plug up these holes where we give away our power to others. And when we plug up the holes, our vibration raises and we attract that which we desire and put out there to get. So
that's like drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, very much drawing a line in the sand.
And playing above the line, that's what
we actually have this in the office, and there's so many other people who have got it. We've been up in Queensland and they've found it, and someone actually said they were going to make a nice PDF version and make it all pretty. Lay blame, when you lay blame, when you justify, when you say, oh, well, you know, my parents, such and such, such and such, well, you know, that's why I am the way I am. Or when you have excuses. Oh, well, you know, I didn't know. You didn't tell me. All this is giving away your power to somebody else. And I mean, this life is about you. It's about you being the best you can be and plugging up your holes. So every now and again, Gary will say to me, well, who's talking? You know, because I'll start my blah, blah, blah. You know, they should have done such and such. And straight away, who's talking? It might be the part of me that wants to sabotage where I'm moving. And so I'll start to learn. I make a very good schizophrenic, but I actually know I am. So I hear these different ones speaking, and I'll say, well, you know, that's the one that's sabotaging me being the best I can be, or that's me playing the little girl victim. You know, really, well, you're not that smart, and who would listen to you? So I've actually started to give them names, but I do know that I'm going to talk to these people, and we'll find all these people inside ourselves over the time. And it's so empowering when I start to hear, oh, no one's going to understand what I'm talking about. That's that little girl, Jenny, who thinks she's not smart at school, and the teacher who said, well, you'll never get anywhere, you know, you'll only get into trouble. So you get to know how you run these little patterns and games. So we'll talk about that along the way. So if you had this chart up, and each time you find yourself just having that little internal chat, and you might be doing it to yourself, like laying blame on yourself or saying, oh, I'm such an idiot sort of thing, blah, blah, blah. You're taking your vibration down, and we have enough of this. Mine will be on this one. We'll find that I can't stop, that's okay. Enough of this fear between the TV, the newspapers, everything out there. There's so many things, you know, well, we're going to die of swine flu, we're going to die of caffeine poisonation, we're going to whatever, or someone's going to drop a bomb somewhere. We have enough of this fear. So we have to start taking responsibility for how much have we listened to, how much we buy into. Is it empowering our journey, or is it taking us away from where we want to go? So we look at this, and when the things that we're saying, we say, well, is it taking us towards our vision and our dream, or is it taking us away? And sometimes along the way, I might have had to do a bit of this thing called forgiveness and check in with whether I'm in integrity with my vision and my dream, or am I choosing to do things to please another and yet enabling my own energy to drain out. Because the whole thing is about plugging up these holes that we're draining out our power. And one of the most powerful things I'm asking myself all the time is, in any situation, what would love say? What would love view this? Would love justify, would love give a hard time. So for me, when you take responsibility, you might let go, forgive, and you forgive for yourself, not to look better in somebody else's eyes. There's a whole different thinking about forgiveness. I mean, you might say, well, you know, I don't need to forgive because really there's nothing wrong out there. We've attracted the situation to come into our life, so really I don't have to forgive them. But if to forgive empowers you and has you feeling better and frees you up, then it may be a step that you choose to do.
I just think about our next door neighbour. We had a problem with I had a problem with the nature strip, and I don't know if you've seen his nature strip. He wanted to put this beautiful, luscious nature strip, and he put it, you know, he pegged it all out with these little silver little ribbons, and then, you know, the birds wouldn't pick the seed. And I backed my car over one of these twigs accidentally because I had a big Land Cruiser, you know. So I thought, oh, Jenny, I'm going to run over, you know, and I put this big tyre mark, which is my part of my land. And then we got to this twigs, didn't we? We got to the sticks. And in the end, we got this iron bar, put it right in the corner where I back out the car. So in the end, I just said to myself, I just threw the whole lot and threw it into his nature strip. And we haven't spoken since. So, you know, I started this, you know, why are you pissing me off, you know? Oh, why is he such a person, you know? And anyway, I read a book about forgiveness and sending love and just where he is in life and whatever. And it's funny, when I did this, played above the line, they disappeared. I mean, I really haven't spoken for a couple of years, but not intentionally.
Not because we don't want to. I suspect that vibrationally, as we raise up, sometimes you're not quite aware of the lower vibration. It just kind of goes out of your realm of recognition. They definitely live there because the house is there and the family's there. But in forgiving them and by being the best that we can be, and by just saying, well, okay, they're at where they're at, and that's okay, not making it wrong. And the interesting thing is, we were walking up the street last week.
You said hello.
And he said hello. Oh, you're like, both her and I go, oh wow, you know, that's a step in the right direction. And you know, initially the children didn't expect was or anything else, because obviously the chatter that was in there was not conducive to that. But even down the supermarket, she told me she wanted to go to the Navy and da da da. So for some reason, as we've softened, and the same things happened with my mum. You might hear about her a little bit over this 12 weeks. But I mean, she's 80, and I wanted her to be the way that I wanted her to be. You know, she showed her love different ways to necessarily the way that I would have wanted. And so I made it wrong. And the more I've learned and the more I've grown, and I mean, I've tried to speak to her about it and all that sort of thing, but the most empowering thing is that I send her love and accept her for who she is, and enable her to be the 80-year-old woman that is, who's in her little box and is not going to get out of it. But she's actually softened as well. I mean, she's not going to change hugely. Yeah, please.
I really love the way you say accepted her rather than forgived her, because when we use the word forgive, we seem to elevate our own benevolence, we're gracious, and we are great enough to forgive you, lowly person. And that's why acceptance is much more holistic in feeling. And I've come from a forgiving point of view for a long time, and it doesn't work for very long.
No. Yeah, please.
Forgiving has an element of judgment in it, whereas assessment doesn't, acceptance doesn't necessarily.
Yeah. And you're not making anyone wrong, please, Claire.
That form of forgiveness that you're talking about is kind of a Christian way of forgiving. I'm so superior to you, I'll forgive you. That's how we're kind of raised to do it. There is another book called A Course in Miracles which talks about forgiveness in a different way. And it says that since we're all spiritual beings and we all literally create our own reality, there's really nothing to forgive because we can't actually hurt each other. It's kind of an illusion. So when you realise that you can't be hurt, there's nothing to forgive. And that's a completely different, it takes it out of that I'm better than you, therefore I'll forgive you way that we're all brought up with. So it's not that sort of forgiveness that is really powerful. Yeah.
No. And that's where I was going to go with that later on, like there is nothing wrong